Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Elman, and welcome everyone to the third lecture at the University of Zürich on the Sustainability Series. This evening, we are going to explore one of the most pressing and complex issues that are facing Somalia today, the issue of the use and recruitment of children into armed conflict. As many of you may already be aware, Somalia has been plagued by conflict and instability for decades now. And there are various perpetrators to the armed conflict. In this discussion today, I want to share a bit of context on Somalia to ground you on the situation and the evolution of the conflict. We're going to discuss the various aspects of child recruitment, why they join, how they get recruited, what the different armed groups are. And because we know that the most widespread, most exploitative, and aggressive recruiter of children is the terrorist designated group Al-Shabaab, I'll focus a bit more specifically on them. And then finally, I'll also discuss some of the gender norms that we have observed in our work in Somalia, define the difference between voluntary youth that join the armed group and those that are forced and what that means in practice in Somalia. It's important to note that Somalia is a signatory to the United Nations Child Rights Convention and also to the optional protocol on children armed conflict. I mention this now before we get into the discussion because these are important entry points for accountability, but what that means in practice, enforcement, and implementation is still very limited. I look forward to answering all of your questions during the panel, and I have the privilege of being joined by other experts as well too. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Do I need a microphone? Can you hear me without it? I need it. Okay. So just for context, Somalia has a population of approximately 60 million people. The country has a complex history of conflict, dating back to the collapse of the central government in 1991. The current government of Somalia has a federal parliament, it has a president, it has a prime minister, and we have 6 different federal member states, one of which in the north is an autonomous region that has been seeking independence for the last 22 years. The federal system was intended to promote integration, to address some of the marginalization of some of the regions and the ethnic groups that live there, but it is still marred with a lot of challenges and conflicts, partially because of many of the armed groups that are still in the periphery, but also because of the very weak and fragile systems that are in place for resource sharing between the federal level and the state level. And even the introduction of the federalism approach in Somalia was one that very quickly became co-opted into